Okay. So, hardening your Linux security with hardware. We all get in these rabbit holes and we didn't expect to fall into. Yeah, this is kind of a reflection of one of those things. So I'm going to see how many of you. Oh yeah, by the way, I have a repo. I'm going to go through some slides to talk about a lot of things. Then we're actually got a computer. We're going to see actually using this and doing a few things with it. But the GitHub repo is here. So if you actually want to play with some of the files, I've like written up some how to do certain things, and that's in this repo. So how many of you know what this is? Find out who was in the military at some point. Go ahead. Yes. Okay, CAC is actually a common access card. I joined the Army a few times. I made a few mistakes. But in 2003, they took my old ID away and gave me one of these. And it's interesting. You know what you can do with the CAC card besides just being your ID card? Yeah. You use it to actually, you had to plug it in and then type in a pin in order to unlock your like desktop, your Army, like if you're on an Army issue machine. It also had the capability of encrypting and signing your email. Yeah, so this was my first thing. I like, what is this thing? And anyways, I was running Linux at home, and like for Windows, it's pretty easy. But I actually went through trouble of being able. I bought my own CatCard reader, and plugged it in and figured out how to use my CatCard on my Linux machine, because you're always curious. But this kind of started my interest in, oh, you can have these external things and do interesting things like encrypt your email or protect login. If you unplugged your CatCard, it like unlocked up your computer, and then to get back in, you had to plug it back in again. So anyways, this is where we start. So what I'm going to start with here is, how many of you have ever played with Udev? Okay, like two of us. Udev is basically enables you to script and perform or control actions if devices are plugged in or removed from your computer. So even if you don't have any of the more sexy hardware that we'll go through later on, if you have a thumb drive, like one of those cheap ones, if you know its device or product ID, you can say, like, when you remove your device, if you for this ID, you can lock the session. So even without any of the fancy hardware, you could actually just add a rule into Udev and cause it so that when you walk away from your computer, just pull the device out and it locks it up. So that's kind of an interesting. It's pretty much free. Now, I could give you a thumb drive, but I'm not entirely sure you want to trust whatever I give you. But here's probably the cheapest option to play with, like something security related with hardware. No fancy hardware, just scripting Udev. Now, how many of you have actually played with PAM before? Okay, a few more. Okay. PAM, the reason why I have the Sun logo is they're actually where PAM originates with Sun. They do some early work on it. I feel bad they got purchased by Oracle still today. But now you see PAM in BSD variants. You see it in Linux. But what the nice thing about it is some of the things we're going to do and some of the things I'm going to demo, you can actually add drivers or packages to your system and make it so that when you log in or disconnect from your computer, that we'll talk about the hardware, they can be used to as like multi-factor for logging in to your computer, and you basically use its the PAM modules. So we're going to play with that a little. How many of you have or have played with Fido devices? Okay. Does anyone know what Fido stands for? It stands for, and it's a really weird thing. fast identification online. It's this weird setup. Basically, their intent is they have hardware devices, and they actually even have biometrics, by the way, with some of this. But they basically, they came to a conclusion that passwords are broken. They've got a lot of problems. They're very hard to do, and you can easily, basically have a very bad password. In fact, you have to work really hard to do passwords right. So what they're trying to do, the diagram that has the little graph there, where it has weak and strong security and poor and good usability. The idea is to build a set of standards that would make it easier to secure your computer and actually make you more secure. That's the idea behind Fido. Now, most of the people, myself included, the first Fido device I ever had was like a Yubikey device. But basically, it was called U2F. And the idea is you plug it in, type in your password, and it was your multifactor, and authenticate you getting in. The newer Fido stuff is actually even saying it doesn't need to be multi-factor. It can actually be, for example, just a single factor. You have the possession, you plug in the device, you touch the thing, you don't have to have a password. The U2F is still a thing, but the newer Fido actually just supports single factor authentication just with your device. Yes. It is. They can be just possession, or it can also be touch, and then it's not fingerprint most of the time. Actually, Yubikey is working on a Yubikey Bio, and it will have the fingerprint detection. Now, most of the we'll talk about a little bit more detail later. Yes. Yeah. No. Mhm. I'm not a lawyer. I'm going to start with that. Okay. But I actually have listened to a presentation by a lawyer who actually also has a degree in master's degree in computer science. So I assume that they're reasonably knowledgeable. And what they basically said is anything that have to require you to come out of your brain to do, so like typing in a password, that they can't force, right? Because that's somewhat testimonial. But a physical device. Now there have been cases where they've actually, like the judges have said, yes, but the point the lawyer said, honestly, tell you the truth, your mileage varies. Because some judges will tell you, hey, if it comes out of your brain, they can't require it, and other judges will say they can require it. So, yeah. Well, the thing is, I honestly, I hate to say it, but like depends on your situation, and you want to be kind of inform yourself and make an informed decision, and honestly say general rules don't really hold. I wish it was, but that's probably the best, most truthful answer to your question. Sorry. Yeah, no, it's a good question. And the lawyer that explained it said basically like at one point the logic was as long as you don't, as long like they can require you to put your finger in it because that's like not comes out of your brain. They just if you're dead, they can still put your finger on your phone, right? But like if you have to actually think, use mental capabilities. That was the logic, but that's not solid. So sorry about that. Let's go into other piece on this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or have someone else have the UV key, right? Yeah. And I'll talk a little bit about ideas in that space, right? Again. So UV keys. Most people with hardware security, they think UV keys. And I mean, honestly, they were in the game really early. They're really, I'd say in the market, they've done probably the best penetration. And the nice thing is they made it just work pretty well. They've done a really good job of engineering and making it work. The capabilities, the Fido or U2F, which we kind of talked about earlier. They also, depending on if you get the right model, which most newer models do, will support Open PGP. So how many of you actually have done PGP email encryption? Like a few of us, right? But you can actually, instead of having your key on your computer, you have actually the private key is actually on an external physical device. That's what the Open PGP thing. In fact, I have one of these. These are probably like a museum collector's thing. This is Open PGP Card. They make these in Europe. I had to get it imported. I'll pass it around. But basically, you would keep your PGP keys. Would not be on your computer. If your computer blew up, you could just take your PGP card and configure yourself on a new computer and keep your key. So that's one of the functionality. It does challenge response, and actually this computer that I've configured here, when it does the full disk encryption, I have to use a Yubikey. It uses that challenge response configuration. OTP, one-time passwords. There's a few different models or approaches on that. Smart card, which is kind of basically like civilian version of the CatCard, frankly. That's the best way to describe that. And then chances are Yubikey does more. Honestly, multifunctional. They usually have utilities allow you to configure the different functionality of them. If you are not one to go super deep in the rabbit hole, but you just want to do something useful, I think actually Yubikey is probably the preferred way to go. Yeah. Oh yeah. Now the Open PGP card. Yeah. So now, if you are a little bit more militant in your open hardware, open software space, there are other devices that like they open the hardware and the software on them. They have Nitrokeys. I actually have a Nitrokey here. It's not that it looks like a thumb drive. To tell you the truth, there's nothing sexy in that, but it has pretty much the same functionality where you're thinking about in the Yubikey, but it's open source. There's a new project actually recently announced called OpenSK. It's a Google project, and it's basically they can take one of these dongles here and implement the security key functionality in software and flash the device. So if you're a really a do-it-yourself type person, then that's a way. Also, the solo keys are also like open source, open hardware options. Yeah. The OpenSK. Yeah. Let me bring up here. OpenSK. Oh, on a Chromebook, so I'll say here and do OpenSK. And what it takes, I actually ordered one of the hardware devices. But yeah, this is open source implementation for security keys. It's written in Rust and it supports like the Fido stuff. And you can use the Nordic dongles. So you can do it that way. Now you can also use cryptocurrency wallets. A lot of these cryptocurrency wallets, they were built to solve the issue of what if I don't trust Mt. Gox with my private key and they might get hacked, and what if that happens? I got millions of dollars in Bitcoin and I can't afford to lose control. For the truly paranoid, cryptocurrency wallets are kind of the thing for them. But the thing is, pretty much the hardware in these has the same type of functionality that you can make them into security keys also. I'm actually going to demonstrate some of that functionality. I actually have a ledger. This is one of the popular cryptocurrency wallets. And let's see, I also have another ledger and a Trezor. A Trezor is like the ledger has like a proprietary system. So if you are a little like not happy about proprietary, the Trezor is actually the firmware and everything is open source on those. So we're going to play with those. And then we're going to talk about something that I've played with a little. I'm still getting deeper into. How many of you recognize that logo right there? Heartbleed. What was Heartbleed? Open SSL, right? Yeah. Yep. And basically, it's possible that you could extract key data if you manipulate your interaction with it, right? So the problem, one of the problems is that the key was in memory. Now, if you're doing all your processing on your computer, you have to do it that way. There's really no way around that, right? But if you offboard your TLS encryption operations to something like an external, like a hardware security module, like an external device, then the cryptographic operations happen outside it, and that it would be a way to mitigate Heartbleed. So, sometimes you might not trust your hardware, the hardware you're computing on, and you don't have to if you offload the sensitive operations. So that's usually you're talking about crypto at that point. So with that, it's kind of an overview of the different kind of things that are possible. We're going to have a demonstration, not that type of demonstration. But I have a computer that I'm going to demonstrate how you can use do stuff to harden your Lynx computer. So this is a System 76. I've put Ubuntu on it for demonstration purposes. And the first thing I've done, how many of you have ever played with Lux or know what Lux is? Okay, 3 or 4 of us, right? Lux stands for Lynx Unified Key Setup. But basically, people use it. The implementation is you use it to do full disk encryption of your Lynx computer. So if someone steals your computer, they have to know the password to unencrypt your hard drive. And so anything on the drive, you can assume it has a reasonable safety margin, right? The thing about it is, it's still, like by default, it's just a password or passphrase if you're doing things better. But what if you can use an external device, and so instead of just having, I'll plug this in now, just having your hopefully that will show up on the screen. I want you to see when it actually gets to that part. So what if when you go to boot your computer? Okay, there we go. Actually, good. Okay, so this is what you come up here, and I've loaded a module in here. It says, please insert your Yubikey, and then type in your password. So if we can turn that so people can see it. There we go. Okay, so if I type the password, which actually sucks because this is a demo computer, it's going to come back without putting the module in, and it's going to like fail, right? Nope, can't do it. So I'll plug in the Yubikey, and now it says, oh yeah, I talked to your Yubikey, and now I'll go ahead and decrypt your hard drive. So without the Yubikey, good luck. So that's kind of a way to harden your computer. Maybe if you had your computer and you had someone else hold your Yubikey and you went through airport security, they couldn't force you to unlock it because you literally don't have the capacity to unlock your computer. Now, another thing is, say we're at this point, I go to log in. But it won't work, and it won't tell you that it's a Yubikey that's the problem. It's just like, something didn't work. Okay, let me get the mirror thing on, and then we can, then you'll see it. So, okay, so I'll log in, and then we'll switch back to mirror. Sorry about that. Yeah, I went with the LTS just because. Let's see here, display. Okay, this is. Okay, let me see if I can log out. And see if it will still show. Okay. Let me see how far it will go. Okay, so then maybe I can just instead of log out, what I'll do is I will just lock the screen to see if it will behave. Okay, so the screen's locked, right? Okay, and so what I do is if I type in the password, it will fail. But if I put my Yubikey in, I can log in. So you can now multi-factor for full disk encryption, now multi-factor for logging in or unlocking your system. So that's the kind of functionality. And now a thing you could add to this, we'll get into that Udev thing I showed earlier. Let me kind of blow this up because I know that it's like super small in the back, right? So let's do this here. Okay. That readable? Okay. Let me kind of make the window smaller and up the font. We talked about Udev earlier. Okay, that should be reasonably readable. So if you go to Etsy, Udev, rules, the directory, there's different rules. I put a few different rules in here. One of which is this lock session. So this is, basically it says if this device with this ID gets removed, lock this session, right? So if I have my thumb drive, which is, actually, I'll do it. No, I'll hurt myself for this. So let's plug in any thumb drive, any device. So I'm going to plug this device in and go LS USB. How many know what LS USB does for you? List your USB devices, right? So this is what devices are plugged in. Now what I'll do is I'll plug in another device, hopefully. And then LS USB. And I see nothing new. Okay, no new devices. So let's try something else. I'll use a ledger. Why not? Okay. So I'll plug in a ledger. What's that? Yeah. Yeah. So I'll plug in this ledger device, and I will unlock it because otherwise the system won't see it. You have a pin to unlock your hardware security wallet. So now, if I LS USB, I will see, hopefully. Okay, so I know it's 004, right? This is the part I'm interested in. So if I do on the 80s rules and go in 004, right? Okay, actually I have to sudo. Actually, I should demonstrate this. If I try to sudo with this device, I've actually configured it so I can't sudo without my Yubikey. So, say if I do that, it'll ask me for my password. I'll type it, it will fail. But if I plug in my device, then I can sudo. So you can multi-factor even escalating privileges with this. So that's kind of a fun one. Okay, and 004, right? So if I disconnect this device, so do Udev trigger. Oh yeah, you're right. So let me sudo UI. Yeah, I did comment out. So there. Yeah. Okay. So now if I disconnect my ledger, if I did this right, it should lock my screen. Of course, it's going to crash. Okay. Of course. Actually, I'll show you a more surefire way. I kind of took a shortcut. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, when you're truly paranoid, no effort is too much, right? So, let me do LS USB, and if I want to see more details, I do V for verbose, right? And now you see a little bit more. You see your Yubikey. Yeah. There's my nano. Okay. Okay, and actually I screwed up because I put 004 and it's actually ID is 001. That was my screw up. Actually, no, it's 004. Yeah. I can actually do off vendor. I'm going to do off vendor. So we'll do that. So sudo di ad and ID vendor. Do we remember what the no. Come on, you're not that good. I mean, let's see here. USB, LS USB, and the vendor is this one. Yeah. Good catch. So let's go back to the other one. This one away. Cancel. Go back. One. Okay. And okay. 2C97, right? Okay, so it should. Okay. I'm not gonna fight that one. I don't want. I might have to. Anyways. Actually, I think you're right. So I'm not going to hold up the presentation on this. So the thing about right now with Yubikey, I've in full disk encryption, log into a system, sudo. Now that Git repo actually has a walkthrough, like step by step, what you need to do to configure things. So I don't expect you. I'm not going to presentation time. So another thing I want to show a little bit is, say, SSH with this. Let's see here. Say you can use a Trezor or one of these other ones for your SSH to control your SSH into a device. So let me get that in. Yeah, it's not easy. So there are, how many of you ever used GPG, the hardware card, to actually do your SSH keys? Nobody. Okay. Well, what it can be done is there's a program that is called GPG Agent, and GPG Agent you can use for that. Now you can use a Yubikey in the PG to do that. Now there's software you can install with pip install Ledger Agent. Now it should say I've already installed. Okay. And so if I do Ledger Agent and do, like, say, a machine I would get into. Oops. Now it works. Now I think it. Yep. Nice. Awesome. Okay, let's get back to that. Okay, we're going to remove that Udev rule because I think that's just screwed me up. So, okay. VI. Let's see, Udev rules and okay. So now let's do this again. It didn't work when I didn't want it to work, and worked when I didn't. Okay. Okay, so let's go there. One nice thing is I can enter in my key and nobody gets to see it, or my pin here. So now, say I do a Ledger Agent connect to this. I'll be prompted and says, "Do you want to provide your public key?" I'll click yes. Then it'll say, "Do you want to use your crypto key?" And press yes. And then I SSH'd into the machine. Without using, like if this machine blew up, I can find another computer and SSH, and I don't have to change keys or back it up somewhere or anything else. It's on the device. Good question. Thank you. I should pay you money for that question. Okay, the question is, what if I lost my device? Because that's the question, right? You go through all this trouble and everything's all, you got your hardware, and then your device gets damaged or you lose it. The cryptocurrency wallets are actually good for this, because most of those have, like, they've anticipated this problem, right? And so what happens is, usually when you set up a cryptocurrency wallet, you have a seed. Like on the ledgers, it's like 24 words. And what you're supposed to do is, when you set that up, you're supposed to write it on a physical piece of paper, then put that piece of paper in a safe or somewhere else, like nuclear proof vault or something. So if you ever lose your device, you can go get a new device. As long as you can reseed it with the same seed, you're back in business. I actually want to demo this, because it'll be kind of an interesting demo. What was that? Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go. So say, for example, I have some Stellar coin. I have some Stellar lumens. So say one of in the Stellar website, which hopefully this will load up reasonably. Come on, for me. Okay. There's an account viewer, and Stellar actually enables you to use your ledger to like manage your cryptocurrency. You can send cryptocurrency and things like that. So let me get to they have different apps. I'll quit this one and go to my Stellar. Okay. And now I can sign in with my ledger. And it'll ask you what you want to do. Authorize one now. So let's say here. Okay. And it'll show me that I have X lumens, right? And I have this is my public key, which I would give other people, and they could send me lumens. It varies. It's not much, honestly. Well, the thing is, they gave them, like, if you have a key-based account, which I recommend. It's kind of a fun platform to work with for crypto. But what happened is they did this dispersal like last year, where they gave a whole bunch of lumens. Again, I think I've donated to like the Tor project with some lumens, just because why not? But I think that may be the most meaningful thing I've ever done with lumens. But the thing about it is, say I have this device, and that shows that account. Now I'm going to unplug it, and I have another ledger, kind of speaking to what if I lost my device, right? That I seeded with the same key. So, if I unlock the device, of course, yeah. Oh, it doesn't go fast, folks. Hopefully I wake up tomorrow morning, I've got a whole bunch more lumens. Thank you. Okay. So say if I navigate away from the page, right? Okay. And plug in. It's the same account. So I could actually lose a device as long as I concede a cryptocurrency wallet with the same seed. Then basically I can get back to working. if you can make that happen, and the math behind the odds behind that are like some astronomical number, because like they have 24 words, and like each word is some like millions of different other words, right? If no, the interesting thing is by default, if you when you're setting it up, it picks. You don't pick. The human sucks. Humans suck at entropy, in case you didn't know. Okay, so now, yeah, if you have probably a mathematically better chance of getting hit by lightning than guessing someone else's. So, yeah. There you go. Yep. Now I actually do want to also demonstrate that seed piece. So, say U2F, which we talked about earlier. There's some U2F test pages. So I'll find one that I've used in the past. And we'll just, what's that? Oh, U2D? Okay. That's not going to work. That probably work a lot better. Okay, so like this one here. So I have a U2F app in my ledger. So I'll go out of this and go to my U2F. And so if I do the U2F register, yes, it registered this device. Now I'll swap it out with the other one, seeded with the same key. I need to get back faster at doing this. U2F. Okay. And now if I do the sign, you'll want that. I'll accept it. It matches up. So it does kind of solve that "what if I lost my device" question. If you have just the other Yubikeys, it doesn't quite work that way, right? Now the solution to that is usually if you're paranoid, make sure you register more than one key. So you have that key that you carry around, you use day in and day out, and the other key you registered, you put in your safe. So if the day happens that your one gets damaged, chances are you can recover with the other one. That's kind of the way you work, or why I recommend it. That's actually what Fido recommends, the way you kind of build that redundancy, is register more than one authenticator device. Is that a fair answer to your question? Probably I over-answered your question, right? Okay. So where I want to go next in this is I have a Nitrokey HSM. I want to get a Raspberry Pi. Their Netscape has, they're not the only one, but there's a network security services. It's a open source set of libraries that support the crypto cards. And I want to create a web server that I use the HSM to do my crypto instead of using OpenSSL or something, what most of us, if we've set up a server, we've done, right? So that's kind of the next project, my next place in the rabbit hole. I also bought one of those little dongles. I'm going to actually program my own physical security token, because why not? But what I'm hoping is, everything I showed you tonight, and sorry it wasn't very smooth, but what I want you to kind of do is kind of feel for kind of what's possible and kind of what you could do with physical security devices. It's kind of some of the things I've learned in using them. Do you have any questions? Go ahead. Okay. Okay. For a Yubikey, for just a U2F token from Yubikey, you can get you're about $15 to $20. Yeah. Now that's just a U2F, which is very focused, narrow focus. It's not the fully functional ones like the Yubikey 5s that have more functionality. And now I think if you do the $20 or $25 one, you can actually have a U2F token that supports NFC. And the nice thing is you can use it, say, if you have your phone as U2F, You can actually hold it to your sensor and use it that way. So that's good. That's a good thing. That's on the low end. Now, yes, the higher end Yubikeys cost $50. That's still not terrible. This ledger actually costs about 50 something dollars. This is the lower end ledger, and the higher end ledger, which is the X, which has a lot more support, like you can install more applications. This one's I think 100, and the Trezor, which I didn't even demonstrate, is like 150. This is the kind of the ultra high end crypto wallet. No. Nah. Well, I don't usually carry around, and I am a level 2 hand-to-hand instructor in the Army, so if you want your arm broken, I'll take care of that. Yeah. Let's demonstrate the PGP stuff. Some people may have seen that, so let's do that. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and you can do that PGP agent with that. Okay, so here is our GPG. Yep. So yep. Oh, you can do some. The Yubikeys are sexy. I cancel that. So let me kick this out. Okay, so say if I have this device in here, and it's basically a PGP key. So if I do GPG card status, it'll show me. It'll say, "Here's this device in here, right?" Now, if in my case I've already got the key that I'm going to send to already installed. What you can do is you could take that URL and actually fetch the key if you wanted to. So say for example, I think I've got it in documents here. I have a message that's encrypted. Okay, so if I do X copy, flip, and then message, then GPGD, then let's see here. Come on, no, let's see. I'll just copy and paste that. Yeah. It might be easier for me. Thank you. Okay. And it's a much better. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we grab the message, the encrypted message. Oh yeah, I did. And it will break if I miss it too. It's like that. So come on there. There you go. It's probably user error. Okay. Okay, so if I paste that, it'll prompt me for my PIN, which I'll type in. And it'll come up and, the message was, this is a secret message, the answer is 42, right? So the thing is, you can use the Yubikey or the open PGP card. And, there are a few different devices. You can actually use even these for the support that. They have applications that do the PGP on the crypto wallets. But the thing about it is, there's a lot of opportunity here. If you're wanting to find, to use some hardware to do something sexy and make it harder to, compromise your system, there's a lot of opportunity. Are there any more questions? Cool. Either I sucked or what's yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Good question, and let's go there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So basically, you're using Lux, you have Yubikey, and you'd really like to use that your Yubikey to harden to control your your well, not the login, but unencrypt your hard drive at boot, right? So say for example, I have example okay, Lynx that repo. I actually have a write-up on the Yubikey Linux Lux. And so basically the things you have to install, the configuration of your Yubikey, and then how to enroll it. Now, for those of you who have not played with Lux, I mean, it's step by step, so you should be good with that. Crypt setup, and then Lux dump, or what's the option here? Lux. You can see, well, with Lux, you actually have a few different, let's see, Lux list, Lux dump. Okay, you have to put the device. Okay, there we go. So I think it's dev SD5 in my case. Okay, probably have to be. And I will need to plug in my Yubikey. Yeah, it can, it's kind of cool, but then it can also be inconvenient. I won't lie. Yeah. Okay, so what happens in my case? What happens with Lux? You can actually have multiple things in different slots. So, say for example, your ID department could actually use one of the slots for them. So if they need to ever decrypt your drive, in this case. Well, I have it's in slot 3 that I've configured the Yubikey. So you have like 8 slots when you start counting from 0, right? But yeah, but you as far as step by step on how to do it, that's why I gave the repo details. Is basically you'll install the Yubikey Lux module, and there's this for CentOS and Red Hat stuff too. Then you'll configure your Yubikey to do the challenge response. Then you'll enroll, and this will actually add they fill one of those slots. And so now you have to plug in and type in your password to unlock your hard drive. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, other questions? Yes. Okay, the repo is Good question. I showed it earlier, but you probably weren't like getting at that point. Yeah, that's fair. And then let's see. Oh, my phone would ring. Hopefully, it's not the company's computers blowing up. Okay. Hey, Freeman. Hey, dude. I'm presenting. Can I call you right back? Sorry about that. But here is the. So let me do this here. Nice. Okay, so clone, let me copy this. Okay. Wow. Okay, so let me make this easier. That's my, that line right there. So yeah, well, play with it. I plan on adding more once. Sorry, sir. Once I do the TLS implementation with the HSM, I plan on doing a write up with like all the steps I took to actually get that working. So. No. Question. You can do PGP on a Yubikey. You can do it on the this. You can do on like the GNU cards, which you'll have a really hard time finding one of these because they have to actually import those from Europe. You can do it on the cryptocurrencies. Like it's hardware wallet. Chances are probably someone's built it. I've only played with ledgers. I haven't played with Trezor. So honestly, I haven't played with that hardware. So, but it would not surprise me if they had that functionality. Yes, question.